Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. For today's video, we're going to be covering a brand new penny stock to the channel. The company name is First Tellurium Corporation, and they've got an exciting portfolio of assets in the mineral exploration space. Now before we get into it, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a huge help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And let me know in the comment section below if you've heard of this company before, if you're currently holding shares of First Tellurium, and how you think they stack up to other players in this space. Now with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we're going to be providing coverage of a company by the name of First Tellurium Corporation, trades on the CSE or Canadian Securities Exchange under the ticker symbol FTEL. Now this one's super interesting for a number of reasons we're going to talk about in today's presentation. Primarily, they're a mineral exploration and development company or project development focused company, but they've got a few unique aspects of their business, including some great partnerships focused on innovation and practical use cases for these minerals or metals, and interests in two very promising assets within their portfolio. So overall, they're not just looking for tellurium, they also look for silver, gold, copper, and tungsten. And as we've talked about in previous videos, a lot of these elements or minerals are actually being used in green energy, specifically in solar and battery technology that we'll talk about a little bit later in today's presentation. Now, if we bring up a 6-month chart on First Tellurium Corporation, you can see they've been downtrending over the last couple of months, very similar to the economy overall or the macroeconomic environment. If we look back about a month to the start of May, you can see they were trading in the 23.5-cent Canadian range. And if we look a little bit further back, all the way to the middle of December of 2021, you can see they were just shy of 30 cents Canadian. Now with that being said, the big thing you'll notice on this graph is this huge spike at the end of January up to 62 cents Canadian. And this really shows how quickly some of these small cap or micro cap companies can take off when they get big news. So in terms of market cap, we're looking at sub $12 million for First Tellurium Corporation. And again, as we're going to talk about in today's presentation, if you're looking for exposure into the mineral acquisition, exploration type of space, this is definitely a company that you want to have on your watch list. Now with that being said, we're going to jump over to the company website. I'll leave a link in the video description below. You can see First Tellurium Essential Metals for a Sustainable Future, directly referencing that sustainable energy generation. And if we scroll down into the About Us section, you can see First Tellurium Corporation offers investors a socially responsible exploration microcap with mineral-rich properties in exceptional jurisdictions. As an investor, not only are you investing to find metal, you're investing in indigenous support, which is crucially important in this space, responsible mineral exploration, and environmental rehabilitation. Now, a little bit later in the presentation, we're going to talk about the various different partnerships that First Tellurium has really established in the industry, but one of them worth calling out here is their Chiona Metals First Indigenous Partnership. So this is really going to expand opportunities and open up mineral grounds that most companies wouldn't regularly have access to, and provide a vehicle for new beneficial partnerships. So this is through connection with Resolve and the Salmon Gold Initiative, and Chiona Metals is aligned with Apple and Tiffany for sales of responsible gold. So some of the biggest, most notable brands in the world have gone out and publicly stated that they're only going to work with or purchase gold supplies from a select number of companies that meet these certain criteria, and Chiona Metals is now one of these, so that's great. And again, this indigenous partnership that we're starting to see become more and more mainstream, especially here in Canada and really North America as a whole. Now, the purpose of the company is to build a new revenue model for the junior resource industry by partnering with indigenous peoples, industry leaders, NGOs, so non-government organizations, and environmental organizations using a scaled approach, which will create a minimal environmental footprint while building out low-cost, efficient operations that allow us to begin production on a shorter timeline. We will work closely with our partners to ensure sustainable and ethical operations while building wealth and value for stakeholders. So really living into this ESG or environmental social governance type of business. Now, the strategy in which First Tellurium is deploying is to generate revenue and shareholder value by leveraging responsible and innovative exploration. We recognize that the future of exploration is cooperation with Indigenous people, funding innovation, partnerships, and thinking outside of the conventional exploration models. So this is going to include exploration and mineral discovery, project development, project generation, cooperatively exploring First Nations territory, and again, having access to some of this ground that maybe other companies wouldn't, scientific innovation and partnerships, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation, and overall sustainable operations. So a very interesting approach and outlook on the mineral exploration space. And again, one of the key ways that First Tellurium has differentiated themselves, not only from some of the other companies we've talked about on the channel, but really from most exploration-focused companies in this sector. Now, the next thing I wanted to cover before we get too far into today's presentation is talk about exactly what tellurium is, because this is an element that I personally wasn't familiar with. So tellurium is a chemical element. Its symbol is Te, and it's got an atomic number of 52, as you can see here if you're familiar with the periodic table. And tellurium is classified as a critical or green minor metal. It represents one of Earth's rarest elements, and along with silver is a key constituent in the manufacturing of solar panels and a lot of battery-related technology. Tellurium is also essential for the production of optical discs, so you can think CDs or Blu-rays, and the performance of next-generation lithium-tellurium batteries, potassium-tellurium batteries, and a wide range of advanced electronic products, including phase-change memory chips. So two things to specifically call out: it's super rare and it's used in a lot of this next generation technology, specifically battery technology and solar panels, which we're starting to see become more and more widespread and well adopted within our society. So rarer than gold and produced generally as a byproduct of copper refining, tellurium's increasing demand worldwide, again because of some of these new use cases, means that new sources must be developed. Solar panel manufacturers and other new users are now seeking primary sources of tellurium, not being reliant on copper refining. And ideal sources for this tellurium are in mining-friendly and stable jurisdictions like we find in Canada and the United States here in North America, and where tellurium is abundant, along with other precious metals like silver that can help offset production costs. The Deerhorn property, so this is one of the two properties that we're going to cover in today's video, has been recognized by First Solar as one of the world's top 4 primary tellurium properties. And First Solar, for those of you who aren't familiar with the solar sector or industry, is one of the world's leading solar panel manufacturers and one of the biggest companies or players in this industry. So again, for those of you who aren't super familiar with tellurium, this gives a little bit more context and explains why companies are so excited about tellurium discoveries. Now, to expand on that point a little bit further, if we look at some of the key applications or use cases for tellurium, whether we're talking about the present or the future. So first on the list, which we just talked about, is high efficiency solar panels, next generation lithium ion batteries, semiconductors has been added to the list, thermoelectric devices, phase change memory chips, and low energy desalination. So this is actually the process that takes away or removes mineral components from saline water. So most well known for the removal of salt from salt water or water that comes from the ocean. And again, this is a really key area that I see growing over the next few decades as the population continues to expand and our demand for fresh drinking water continues to grow. So a number of high growth areas, including solar, battery technology, and desalination, all of which rely on tellurium. So with that being said, now that we understand what First Tellurium is all about, how they've differentiated themselves in terms of their business strategy, the use cases for tellurium, now I wanted to move a little bit further into the investor presentation. Again, this can be found on the company's website. I'll leave a link in the video description below and talk about this unique portfolio or investment opportunity you're getting with First Tellurium Corporation. So again, they're focused on exploring for and providing essential and critical metals, including tellurium, gold, silver, copper, and tungsten, which has the symbol W. They've got their Fenix Advanced Materials Partnership, which we're going to talk about next up in the presentation. This is really looking at the potential future for tellurium extraction and purification processes and developing these new lithium tellurium batteries. This is in partnership with UBC Okanagan, which I actually attended personally. So that's super exciting. Now, outside of that partnership, they've also got these two high-grade properties. So the first is the Klondike property located in Colorado. This is a high-grade tellurium project which will undergo their next phase of exploration in 2022. So this is a short-term catalyst for First Tellurium, and their primary property is the Deerhorn property located here in Canada in the province of BC. This has high grades of tellurium, gold, silver, and shows mineralization in 3 different directions, so the possibility to expand operations here. Also, this property contains significant tungsten mineralization and copper indications, so really all of the elements or minerals that First Tellurium is focused on are found at this Deerhorn property. So again, in terms of how the company has differentiated itself, they're looking for a unique portfolio of different elements. They've got unique partnerships and these high-grade properties located both in Canada and the United States. And that's a perfect segue to this slide here, which really talks about some of these various different partnerships under the First Tellurium umbrella. So you can see the Fenix Advanced Materials. This is the one we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail. This is a clean tech company specializing in the manufacture of ultra high purity metals, developing next generation lithium tellurium batteries, which we talked about. And then this partnership with the University of British Columbia. They've also got their McNallie Consulting Partnership. So this is an American and Swiss-based consulting and professional services company. So they've actually got operations all over the world, including Germany, Switzerland, and Dubai. Then we have the Chiana Metals Partnership, which we talked about. So this is really looking or exploring for minerals in First Nations territories of British Columbia and the Yukon, while at the same time working to rehabilitate mining sites that affect salmon and wildlife habitat. So this is this Indigenous partnership we referenced earlier in the presentation. And then finally is IRMA. So this is the Initiative for Responsible Mining Alliance. And FTEL, or again, First Tellurium's ticker symbol here, is the only junior mining member within this organization. So they're working to forge responsible exploration practices. And again, one of the ways that First Tellurium has separated themselves or differentiated themselves from other junior mining companies in this space. So if you take a step back here and look holistically, a number of different partnerships with a number of different goals or objectives, all contributing to the overall strength of First Tellurium and their portfolio. Now, the one I wanted to hone in on in a little bit more detail is actually this Fenix partnership. So this is cool and especially interesting to me because they're working in unison or collaboration with UBC Okanagan, so the University of British Columbia Okanagan campus. This is actually where I went to school or took my bachelor degree to develop next generation lithium tellurium batteries. Now, this partnership with First Tellurium is going to look to find potential future tellurium extraction and purification process synergies and achieve a vertically integrated enterprise for clean tech metals. Fenix, as we talked about on the prior slide, is a clean tech company specializing in the manufacturing of ultra high purity known as UHP metals and is really an industry leader in this space. So if we continue to scroll down here, you can see the Fenix lithium tellurium battery development overview or plan. Again, really focused on that collaborative research and development with UBC Okanagan. These new lithium tellurium batteries may last up to 4 times longer than conventional lithium ion batteries. Obviously, with a lot of this clean energy, specifically solar, the big concern is around energy storage. So battery technology and battery development are crucially important here. And this partnership is actually starting to get media attention. So we saw it featured on Global News here in Canada. They've received over $1 million of development capital, and they could be in commercial production of these batteries within the year. So definitely a really exciting component or partnership, again, with the First Tellurium portfolio. So now that we've talked about some of these unique partnerships, I wanted to move into the actual assets within the First Tellurium umbrella. So the first one up here is actually the Klondike property. Again, you can see top right focused on high-grade tellurium, gold, and silver at this location. We won't go into a ton of detail. Again, I would encourage you to take a look in the investor presentation for yourself if you're thinking about making an investment into this company. But I did want to give some high-level information about each of these 2 sites. So the Klondike property is located just southwest of Denver, Colorado. You can see close proximity to both Bona Vista and Colorado Springs, accessible via paved and gravel roads, so infrastructure is already in place, and most exploration activity at this location can actually be performed year-round, which is a major benefit to First Tellurium. Now on this map, you can also see a number of active gold and silver mines in the area, along with historic gold and silver mines in brown. So the active ones are in red here. You can see Gold Link, Dawson, Cripple Creek, where some of the historic ones, the Bonanza, Crystal Hill, Silver Cliff, Rosita, are in very close proximity to the Klondike asset. Now this location or asset is super unique, and again, this is a quote from John Keller, who originally assessed the Klondike location for First Solar. So we talked about First Solar a little bit earlier in the presentation and their notoriety in the solar sector. The Klondike property had by far the highest tellurium grades in rock samples of the hundreds of prospects and deposits we examined in both the United States and Canada. Some samples at Klondike were an order of magnitude higher in terms of tellurium grade than any other location. So again, extremely high rich deposit here, you guys, very accessible, and again, year-round exploration opportunities. And this is really what makes this location or the Klondike property so exciting. So exceptional tellurium prospect held again prior by First Solar, which is one of the world's largest solar panel producers. The Klondike was considered one of First Solar's top tellurium prospects in the entire world, and First Solar had planned to use Klondike as a potential primary source of tellurium for the company's cadmium telluride solar panels. When First Solar canceled their tellurium mining initiative, the property was then purchased in 2013 by the geological team leading the company's property acquisitions. So a very exciting and promising location in terms of tellurium discoveries around the world. Now the second location or asset within the First Tellurium portfolio is the Deerhorn property. This is located in British Columbia, Canada. Again, focused on high-grade tellurium, silver, gold, with indications of copper. And if we continue to scroll down for a little bit more detail about this property, you can see it's located just south of Smithers, BC, and it encompasses about 5,100 hectares, which is the equivalent to about 51.33 square kilometers, located only 36 kilometers south of the prolific and historic Huckleberry Mine. It's one of the few significant tellurium discoveries outside of Asia, again in a very friendly mining jurisdiction here in Canada and North America. And they've identified a 2.4 kilometer long vein system comprised of high-grade gold, silver, and tellurium, and broader zones of bulk tonnage, again gold, silver, tellurium mineralization. Now First Tellurium has a 50% interest in this asset with the option to acquire up to 75% interest in the property. So again, the opportunity to become a majority stakeholder in this property. And they've actually already completed a PEA or preliminary economic assessment at this location, and the results do look very encouraging. So on a pre-tax net present value or NPV, it's about $57 million, indicating an internal rate of return or an IRR in excess of 56%. After-tax NPV of about $36.5 million or an internal rate of return of about 42%. And with an initial capital injection of about $28.3 million, they estimate the after-tax payback period for that initial capital injection or investment to be only 1.6 years. And I should note that that current PEA or preliminary economic assessment only covers about 20% of the known showing at this location. So very promising results and a number of significant advantages by using this unique small mine approach. So greatly streamlines the permitting, funding, development process. They're working closely with the indigenous partners who support this smaller footprint. They can use cash flow to expand the resource without incurring higher dilution, so that's great for shareholders. And this strategy aligns with First Tellurium's sustainability values that we talked about in the intro. So really a number of things to be excited about in terms of this specific asset and really with First Tellurium in general. And speaking of that, in terms of some near-term catalysts to keep an eye out for, or what's next up on the docket for First Tellurium, the Klondike project, as we talked about, is entering their follow-up stage on First Solar's recommended drill program in 2022, so this year. their Fenix Advanced Material Partnership. They're going to continue to advance that lithium tellurium battery technology. They're consistently looking and investigating other opportunities to acquire tellurium projects here in North America. Their Deerhorn project, they're looking to continue to explore and expand the resource, and then further investigation into Deerhorn's copper and tungsten targets. So in addition to the gold, silver, and tellurium, they've also identified copper and tungsten at the Deerhorn location, again, which is super encouraging for this company. So to round things out here, you guys, why you should consider investing or at least throwing First Tellurium on your watch list. Number one, management with a track record of project monetization. So we didn't talk a lot about the leadership team in this presentation. There's a number of great interviews available on YouTube with the CEO and leaders of First Tellurium. Very seasoned, experienced management team with an extensive history in finance, mineral property development, geology, solar power, engineering, research, and first Indigenous engagement and economic development. So very well-balanced group. They've got that advanced district-scale Deerhorn project located in BC, which we just talked about. They've completed a positive PEA or preliminary economic assessment with only a 1.6-year payback period. And then finally, that unique Indigenous partnership, which opens up largely unexplored ground in northern BC that a lot of other companies just simply don't have access to. So for those reasons, you guys, I definitely would encourage you to take a closer look at First Tellurium if you're looking for exposure into the mining exploration type of space here in North America. A number of key ways this company has differentiated themselves from other players in the sector. I'd be super curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of First Tellurium and how you think their portfolio stacks up to some of the other players we've talked about on the channel. If you're still watching the video at this point, hopefully you found some value, so make sure you hit the like button before you leave. And if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.